Hello and welcome to another Adobe Lightroom color grading tutorial. In this video, I do want to color grade an image which I shot on my DJI Air 2S drone. So we are going to turn this image into this one. If you want to follow along the tutorial, you can get the raw file in the description of the video, and now let's jump into it. Here we are in Lightroom, and before I start the editing process, I'm going to flip over this image. And the reason for that is I do want to have the darker part of the image at the bottom, while the sunlight comes in kind of from the top. So to do that, we are going to head into the photo menu up here and then just say flip vertical, just like that. Now with that out of the way, let's head into the basic tab and change the profile from Adobe Color to Adobe Standard, which will give us a more flat image. Right away, looking at histogram, you can see there's a little bit of overexposure. I don't think that's a big deal. Besides that, the image is more on the brighter side. So let's adjust that by bringing down the exposure, and I'm going to drop it quite a bit because I want this image to be rather dark. I think that's a good spot. And while we're at it, let's also adjust the white balance. This whole shot needs to be a little warmer, so I'm going to bring up the temperature. And I'm also going to drop the tint just to get rid of that slight magenta color cast. Alright, perfect. Then I'm going to drop the highlights just a little bit. And I'm going to increase the whites. And let's maybe also increase the blacks just to be on the safe side with the masking later. Looking good so far. Now to introduce some more contrast, I'm going to use the dehaze slider. I think this works pretty good on this drone shot. Just a little bit. Then, of course, I also want to add some clarity, which will give the waves a lot of this nice structure. Perfect. And at the same time, let's bring up the texture and just make this whole shot look a lot clearer and sharper. Okay, looking good so far. Now let's introduce some vibrance for some more saturation. Perfect. Let's compare it to before real quick. You can see the colors are much different right now already, and the overall look is much darker as well. So that's looking really good so far. This means we can jump into the masking. For this shot, there's not that much going on. First off, I'd like to make the bottom portion of the image darker. So let's just use a linear gradient and drag it up like that. And in here, just bring down the exposure. Again, I'm dropping it quite a bit. But this looks pretty good. Just want to give it some more of a gloomy feeling down here. And then for the upper part, as I said, I want to have some kind of sunlight coming in from the top. So again, I'm using a linear gradient like this. And I do want to bring up the exposure. Let's raise it quite a bit. And I also want to introduce some contrast. Alright, looks good to me. Maybe some more whites. But that should be fine. Then let's apply a radial gradient just on those rocks on the right side. For that I'm using texture. And I'm also going to use some clarity here. Okay. Then I do want to add one more radial filter just over this very bright spot under the lights on the left side. Let's stretch it a little bit. And here I do want to bring down the highlights to fix the overexposed area. Okay, perfect. Again, let's compare to before, and you can see we have a much different image now. Next up, the color grading. Let's head into the HSL panel. And first I actually want to start with the luminance. That means I'm going to bring up the orange luminance, which will mostly affect those rocks and make them a little brighter. So let's bring it up a notch. At the same time, I want to bring down the blue luminance, making the whole ocean a lot darker. Just like that. Awesome. Then let's switch over into the saturation tab. And here I want to mostly get rid of all the colors besides blue and orange. So let's drop the red tones. I'm also dropping magenta, purple. I guess I also want to drop the aqua tones to get the very deep blue look. And let's see if we can drop the yellow tones as well. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Now, with this out of the way, let's bring up the orange saturation. Just like that to get some nice color contrast going on in here. And I'm also going to bring up the blue saturation. just like that. This looks really, really good. Now let's head into the color grading panel for the split toning. I'm going to just use the midtones and the shadows. For the shadows, I'm using a cold color tone, which of course fits the ocean. So let's bring up the saturation here. Just a little bit, all right. And then for the midtones, I'm also going to use a cold color tone. I could maybe go somewhere in the cyan range even. And now let's bring up the saturation a notch. All right, perfect. Finally, I'm heading down into the calibration tab and just bring down the blue primary hue. And I'm also bringing up the saturation here. All right, let's compare to before. I think this looks really, really good with the orange and the blue tones. Now there's one more thing left to do, and that is to sharpen this image in the details tab, of course. So let's bring down the radius, increase the details, and then add some masking. So only the vital parts of the image will get sharpened. And then finally increase the amount of sharpening. All right. At this point, that's pretty much it for editing this image. But however, I want to clean it up a little more. So for that reason, I'm going to use Photoshop. Let's right click on the image and then go edit in Adobe Photoshop. Okay, just in case I mess something up, I do want to create a backup layer. So I'm hitting Ctrl J. And now let's see, what can we fix here? I really don't like this rock up here in the upper left corner. I want to try and just create a selection with the lasso tool. And let's see if I can get rid of it using the content aware fill. So I'm hitting Shift F5 with that selection. And under contents, I'm choosing content aware and hit OK. So that is not looking too bad. I think I need to use the clone stamp tool, however, just to make it look a little more natural. Alright, then there are a few brighter spots down here in the water. I think I want to get rid of them as well. So I'm just keep on using the clone stamp tool for that. It's kind of quick. Perfect. Now that I have removed the upper part, I kind of think something is missing from this shot. So I'm not sure if I want to get rid of it at all. Let's just keep it in here. So I'm going to create a black layer mask by holding down the Alt key and clicking on that layer mask icon. But I still want to get rid of those bright spots in the bottom part. So I'm going to brush in on the layer mask with white color to get back this part. However, I am really not happy with that wave crashing over the rock up here. So I'm going to get rid of this part. Okay, I like this much better. So that's it for editing this image. I hope this was interesting and helpful. If you have any questions left, as always, feel free to ask in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this video.